Hey DH crew, it's Paula from Daily Hurdles, here today to make algebra as simple as it gets. Let's get over this hurdle. Now I know they've tried to teach you algebra in school, but I'm here today to help you understand it. First and foremost, algebra is much easier if you know your math fundamentals. That's right, I'm talking about addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. You will do yourself a tremendous favor if you take the time and learn your basic math fundamentals. And I'm not talking about using your fingers or a calculator. I'm talking about knowing your basic math fundamentals like you know your own name. And the good thing about math is, once you learn it, you never have to relearn it. Because math fundamentals never change. 1 plus 2 will always be 3. Unlike other sciences that change every day. Think of it as an investment in your future. I cannot stress enough how important knowing your basic math fundamentals are. They are the foundation for any kind of math course that you will take. You wouldn't try to build a house without a solid foundation, so don't try to do math without a solid foundation of basic math fundamentals. Now, assuming you know your math fundamentals, we can get down to algebra made simple. Algebra is made up of a set of rules, most of which you probably already know, and how to apply these rules to solve problems known as equations. Equations are just that, keeping things equal. So the equal sign in an equation is the secret. There's two sides to every equation, the left side of the equal sign and the right side of the equal sign. And the equal sign in the center just tells us that the two sides are the same. For example, 1 plus 3 equals 4. Or 2 times 3 equals 6. You have been using equations since kindergarten. Nothing complicated here. Keep in mind that the equation is not changed if it is reversed. So this 1 plus 3 equals 4 is exactly the same as 4 equals 1 plus 3, or 6 equals 2 times 3. Here's another rule I want you to commit to memory. Whatever you do to one side of an equation or equal sign, you must do the same thing to the other side of the equal sign in order to maintain equality. For example, we know 9 equals 9. Nothing complicated there. That's a given fact. According to our first rule, whatever you do to one side of the equation, you have to do to the other side of the equation to keep it the same. So if I take 9 and I add 3 on this side of the equation, in order to keep them equal, I must add 3 to this side of the equation. If I subtract 3 from this side of the equation, I must subtract 3 from this side of the equation. If I multiply this side by 3, I must multiply the opposite side by 3. If I divide this side by 3, I must also divide this side by 3. So, 12 equals 12, 6 equals 6, 27 equals 27, and 3 equals 3. It's really common sense, something that you already know. A very simple rule, but it is crucial when you're solving equations. In algebra, a letter known as a variable is used in an equation like this. N plus 3 equals 10. So what this is asking you is what number, represented by the letter N, plus 3 equals 10. If you know your basic math facts, you can figure that one out in your head. But let's apply the rule that we know to figure out this equation. In order to figure out what n is, we need to have it on the side of the equation by itself. In order to get the n isolated, we must get rid of this positive 3. Now, applying the rule that we just learned, whatever we do to this side of the equation, we must do to this side of the equation. So here we have n plus 3. In order to get rid of this 3, we have to subtract it. So we subtract 3 from this side, and we have to do the same to this side. So now we have 10 minus 3. This positive 3 and negative 3 becomes 0. And we're left with n equals 7. We know now that n equals 7. In order to check our work to see if we're correct, we could go back to our original equation. Now we know that this n equals 7, so we can substitute the number 7 back here. So we have 7 plus 3 equals 10. And you've just figured your first algebraic equation. Now let's practice a few more. In this case, we're going to have a different variable, a. We're going to subtract 7, and it equals 15. In order to get rid of this 7, now we want to isolate the a, because a stands for any number. We want to isolate the a, so we have minus 7. In order to get rid of this minus 7, we have to add 7 now. If I add 7 to this side of the equation, I have to add 7 to that side of the equation. The minus 7 and the positive 7 cross themselves out and become 0, and I'm left with a equals 22. If I substitute this 22 back up into the original equation, I have 22 minus 7 equals 15. Again, you can probably figure that out in your head, but when these problems get more complicated, if you apply these rules, everything makes sense. Multiplication and division work the same way. So we have 2, this time we're going to have the variable b equals 12. In order to get the b isolated on this side of the equation, we have to get rid of this 2 times b. So in order to get rid of this, we have to divide it by 2. If I divide this side of the equation by 2, I have to divide this side of the equation by 2. 2 over 2 equals 1, so we're left with just a b on this side of the equation because 1b and b is exactly the same. 12 divided by 2 equals 6, so b equals 6. All right, so now I know that b equals 6. If I substitute 6 back in our original equation, I have 2 times 6 equals 12. Division works the same way. N divided by 2 equals 3. Same principles apply. I need to get n on this side of the equation by itself. In order to do that, I have to get rid of this divided by. So in order to get rid of this, I have to multiply by 2. So I'll get 2n over 2 equals 3 times 2. 2 over 2 cancels out, becomes 1, and we're just left with n on this side of the equation equals 3 times 2 is 6. Going back to the original equation, we now know that n equals 6. So we substitute the 6 back in the original equation, and we get 6 over 2 equals 3. Now let's take this one step further. 2n plus 3 equals 13. All the same rules apply. We still want to isolate n on this side of the equation by itself. But now it's going to take more than one step. So the first thing we want to do is get rid of this plus 3. So we have 2n plus 3 minus 3. We'll get rid of the 3. If we minus 3 from this side, we have to minus 3 from that side. So we have 13 minus 3. Now we're left with, this cancels out to 0, we're left with 2n equals 13 minus 3, or 10. Now we're back to a simple equation that we already know how to solve. We're going to divide this side by 2, and we're going to divide this side by 2. This cancels out to 1, and it leaves us with just n on this side equals 10 divided by 2, or 5. So now we know n equals 5. We can substitute that 5 back in our original equation, And we have 2 times 5 plus 3 equals 13. 2 times 5 is 10, plus 3 equals 13. Let's practice another one. 6 plus 2 times what number equals 18? That's what this equation is asking us. Same rules apply every time. That's what I love about math. So we're going to subtract 6 from this side. Six plus 6 minus cancel out, and I'm left with 2n equals 18 minus 6 is 12. Now this is one we all know how to solve. We're going to go ahead and divide each side by 2. This cancels out. We're left with n equals 12 divided by 2 is 6. We're going to substitute the 6 back up in our original equation because we know that n equals 6. So we have 6 plus 2 times 6 equals 18. 2 times 6 is 12, so we have 6 plus 12 equals 18. Now it's time to practice on your own. We have a simple equation, n plus 3 equals 7. I want you to place this video on pause and figure out this equation and come on back when you're done. This is a very simple equation. We have to isolate the n. So we have n plus 3. In order to get rid of that 3, we subtract it. If we subtract 3 from this side, we have to subtract 3 from this side. And we're left, this cancels out to 0. And we have n equals 7 minus 3, or 4. Substituting back up, 4 plus 3 equals 7. Okay. Here's another one for you to try. 4n minus 6 equals 18. Go ahead and put this video on pause and try to figure that one out. So in this equation, we're going to solve it the same way that we solve all the rest. We have to isolate the n. First step in isolating the n is to get rid of this negative 6. So we have 4n minus 6. In order to get rid of that, we have to add 6. If I add 6 to this side, I have to add 6 to this side. So now this positive 6 and negative 6 cancel out to 0. And we're left with 4n on this side equals 24. We already know how to solve this. We're going to divide both sides by 4. This becomes 1, or just plain n. And this becomes 24 divided by 4, or 6. If I substitute 6 back in our original equation, I have 4 times 6 minus 6 equals 18. 4 times 6 is 24, minus 6 equals 18. Congratulations, you've just solved some basic algebra equations. I've uploaded some practice sheets with the answers on our website, dailyhurdles.com, in the tutorial section. Come back and check out Algebra Made Simple Part 2, where we will learn and review some of the properties of algebra. Until then, keep working on your basic math facts and building that solid math foundation. See you soon.